The stars looked like tiny diamonds on black cloth from the bridge of the UES Defiant. Captain Jack Miller stood with his hands behind his back, watching the endless space before him. The Defiant was Earth's newest and most powerful warship, though few knew just how powerful it really was. "Another quiet day at the edge of human space," said Jack to no one in particular. His second-in-command, Lisa Brown, nodded. "Just how I like it, sir." The Defiant had been on patrol for 3 weeks. They were the furthest human ship from Earth, tasked with watching the border of known space. Most days were boring. Today would not be one of those days. A soft beep came from the sensor station. Tom Wilson, the young officer watching the screens, sat up straight. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange," said Tom, his fingers moving quickly over his screen. "Long-range sensors show multiple objects heading this way." Jack walked over to Tom's station. "Asteroids?" "No, sir." "They're moving too." "Wait." Tom's eyes widened. "Sir, these are ships, many ships." "Put it on the main screen," ordered Jack. The large screen at the front of the bridge changed to show a cluster of dots moving in formation. Jack felt his heart beat faster. Earth had met 3 alien species so far, all peaceful, but none of them had ever approached human space with what looked like. "Is that a war fleet?" asked Lisa, saying what everyone was thinking. Tom worked his instruments. "I count over 300 vessels, Captain, all moving together toward human space." Jack took a deep breath. How long until they reached the Davis Research Station? Tom checked his calculations. At their current speed, less than 6 hours. The Davis Research Station was a small, unarmed outpost with 60 scientists studying the unique star system. They would be the first thing these aliens encountered. "Open a channel," Jack ordered. "All frequencies, all languages we know." Emma Reed, the communications officer, worked quickly. "Channel open, sir." Jack straightened his uniform. "This is Captain Jack Miller of the United Earth Ship Defiant. Unknown fleet, you are approaching human territory. Please identify yourselves and state your purpose." They waited. 10 seconds. 30. A minute. "No response, Captain," said Emma. "I've sent the message in all known alien languages too." Jack frowned. "Keep trying. Meanwhile, send an emergency message to Earth Command. Include all our sensor data." "What are your orders, sir?" asked Lisa. Jack studied the screen. The Defiant was the only military ship within light years. Even at top speed, the closest help was 3 days away. "We stay between them and the research station," he said firmly. "And we hope they're friendly." 4 hours passed with no response from the alien fleet. Earth Command had ordered the Defiant to maintain position and continue attempts at communication, while also instructing the research station to evacuate. But the scientists only had 2 small transport ships. They wouldn't all get away in time. "Captain," called Emma, "I'm detecting communications between the alien vessels. It's unlike anything in our database." "Can you decode any of it?" asked Jack. Emma shook her head. "Not yet, but based on the patterns, I believe they're coordinating something." As if to confirm her words, the alien fleet suddenly changed formation. What had been a loose cluster tightened into attack lines. "They're increasing speed," reported Tom. "And, Captain, the lead ships are powering up weapon systems." Jack didn't hesitate. "Battle stations. Shield to maximum. Inform Earth Command that we have hostile intent." The calm bridge erupted into controlled activity as red alert lights flashed. Crew members rushed to their positions. "The research station has launched 1 transport ship," said Emma. 32 people aboard. The second transport is still loading." Jack gripped the arms of his command chair. "How long until the alien fleet is in weapons range of the station?" 15 minutes, sir," replied Tom. "And until they can see us?" "We'll be visible to them in about 3 minutes." Jack nodded. "Good. That gives them time to notice us before they reach the station." But the alien fleet didn't slow when the Defiant appeared on their sensors. They maintained course, ignoring the lone human warship as if it were insignificant. "Sir," said Emma, her voice tight, "I've managed to get visual on the lead ships." The main screen changed to show massive vessels, dark gray with strange red markings. Their shapes were unlike any ship humans had designed, all sharp angles and threatening points. "Analysis suggests they're the Vex, sir," said Emma, reading from her screen. "Records from the Arcturian Alliance warned about them. A warrior species that expands through conquest. The Arcturians haven't seen them in this sector before." Before Jack could respond, weapons fire erupted from the lead Vex ships, not aimed at the Defiant, but at the half-empty research station. "They're firing on civilians," shouted Lisa. The bridge crew watched in horror as bright energy beams struck the research facility. The second transport, still docked, exploded in a flash of light. 28 people still aboard that transport," said Emma, her voice barely a whisper. Jack's face hardened. No more attempts at communication. "Weapons officer, target the ships firing on the station." "Sir," said Lisa carefully, "we're one ship against more than 300. Jack turned to her, his eyes determined. "Then we'll have to be smarter than them." He addressed the entire bridge. "This ship has technologies no one outside this crew knows about. It's time to use them." Jack pressed a button on his chair. "All hands, this is the captain. We are engaging a hostile alien fleet to protect human lives. Remember your training. Remember what the Defiant can do. Today, we show them why they should fear humans." He nodded to his weapons officer. "Target their lead ships. Fire when ready." The Defiant's advanced engines hummed to life as the ship accelerated toward the massive alien armada. To anyone watching, it might have seemed like suicide, one ship charging against hundreds. The Vex fleet, confident in their overwhelming numbers, barely adjusted their formation. This tiny human vessel was no threat to their mighty armada. That was their first mistake. The Defiant raced toward the Vex fleet like a tiny bullet heading for a mountain. On the bridge, Captain Jack Miller stood tall, showing no fear even as his ship flew toward certain death, or so it would seem to anyone who didn't know the Defiant's secrets. "Weapons range in 20 seconds, reported the weapons officer, Sam Green. "All crew, secure for combat," Jack ordered through the ship-wide system. "Activate Shield Protocol Omega." Lisa Brown looked at him sharply. "Sir, are you sure? That system has never been used in real combat." "We don't have a choice," said Jack. "Prepare the quantum torpedoes as well." Throughout the ship, crew members exchanged nervous glances. They had trained with these secret technologies, but using them against a real enemy was different. In engineering, Chief Engineer Tom Wilson's fingers flew across control panels, redirecting power to special systems. He reported over the comm. "Shield Protocol Omega activating now." A soft hum filled the ship as an invisible field surrounded the Defiant. Not the standard energy shields used by Earth's other ships, but something far more advanced. The lead Vex vessels finally seemed to notice the lone human ship charging toward them. 5 alien ships broke formation and moved to intercept, firing bright red energy beams. "Impact in 3, 2, 1, called out Lisa. The bridge crew braced for the hit, but instead of the expected explosion, the Defiant glowed with a strange blue light. The enemy weapons fire struck the blue field and then, impossibly, curved away, shooting back toward the Vex ships. "Shield redirect successful," shouted Tom from engineering. "The enemy fire has been sent back at 40% original power." On the main screen, the crew watched in amazement as the reflected energy beams struck 2 Vex ships, causing visible damage to their hulls. "What just happened?" asked the young officer. Lisa allowed herself a small smile. "The Omega shields don't just block enemy fire, they catch it and send it back." Jack nodded. "A technology Earth developed after studying artifacts from the ancient ruins on Mars. This is its first field test." The damaged Vex ships pulled back, clearly confused by what had happened. The rest of the alien fleet continued their attack on the research station, seemingly unconcerned with the single human vessel. "They don't see us as a threat yet," said Jack. "That's good. Status of the quantum torpedoes." "Ready to fire, sir," replied Sam. "Target the ship closest to the research station. We need to draw their attention away from the civilians." Sam aimed carefully. Target locked. Fire. From the underside of the Defiant, a small glowing projectile launched toward the largest Vex ship. It looked too small to cause serious damage. Another deception. When the torpedo was halfway to its target, it suddenly split into 3 separate warheads, each adjusting course slightly. The Vex ship detected the incoming weapons and raised its shields, standard purple energy barriers visible around its hull. But when the quantum torpedoes reached the shields, they simply passed through as if nothing was there. "Direct hits," announced Sam, as the torpedoes struck the Vex ship's engines and weapons systems. The massive alien vessel shuddered, then went dark as its power systems failed. It began to drift, no longer a threat. In the science lab aboard the Defiant, Chief Science Officer Emma Reed studied her readings intently. "Captain, I'm analyzing their shield technology," she reported. "It appears to operate on a frequency pattern. Their shields are strong, but they're designed to stop physical objects and energy weapons operating at standard frequencies." "And our quantum torpedoes?" asked Jack. "They shift phase as they travel," explained Emma. "They're partially out of sync with normal spacetime when they hit the shields, so they pass right through." Jack smiled. "Good work, Emma. Keep analyzing their systems. Find me more weaknesses." The remaining Vex ships were now changing course, moving away from the research station and turning toward the Defiant. Nearly a dozen of the alien vessels formed a new attack pattern. "Looks like we got their attention," said Lisa. "That was the plan," replied Jack. "Now we need to make them reconsider this invasion." The Vex ships opened fire all at once, sending a barrage of energy beams toward the Defiant. Once again, the Omega shields caught the incoming fire, glowing brighter than before. But this time, the ship shook violently. "Shield capacity at 70%, reported Tom from engineering. "That was a lot of power to redirect. We can't take too many more hits like that." Jack gripped his chair. "We need a new tactic. Emma, what have you learned about their communication systems?" Emma studied her data. "Something interesting, Captain. All Vex ships appear to use a unified communication network. They coordinate their attacks through a central system. Can we disrupt it?" Emma thought for a moment. "Maybe. Their communications use a unique frequency. If we could inject our own signal." "Get Dave from communications to help you," ordered Jack. "I want options in the next 5 minutes." Meanwhile, the Vex ships were regrouping, forming a semicircle around the Defiant. Their next attack would come from multiple angles, making it harder for the Omega shields to redirect all the fire. "They're learning," said Lisa, "adapting their tactics." Jack nodded. "So will we. Navigation, prepare for maneuver Phantom." The navigation officer looked up in surprise. "Sir, that's never been attempted at combat speed." "Today is a day of firsts," said Jack grimly. "On my mark." The Vex fleet opened fire again, dozens of energy beams streaking toward the Defiant from all sides. "Now," shouted Jack. In that instant, the Defiant's experimental drive system engaged. The ship seemed to shimmer, becoming transparent for a split second, and then it vanished completely, leaving the Vex weapons to pass through empty space. A moment later, the Defiant reappeared 2 kilometers behind the Vex formation. "Phase shift successful," reported the navigation officer, sounding surprised. "All systems operational." "They don't know where we are," said Lisa, checking the sensors. "Their ships are scanning in the wrong direction." Jack allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. "Now they know we're not an ordinary ship. Sam, target their command vessel with 2 quantum torpedoes. Let's show them what happens when they attack humans." As the torpedoes launched toward the unsuspecting Vex command ship, Jack knew the real battle was just beginning. The Defiant had revealed some of its secrets, but the Vex still had numbers on their side. The alien Armada was about to learn that when it came to humans, numbers didn't always matter. Sometimes, one ship was enough to change the course of a war, especially when that ship was the Defiant. The Vex command ship shuddered as the quantum torpedoes struck its hull. Internal explosions rippled through its middle section. The massive vessel didn't explode completely, but its weapons went dark, and it began to drift sideways. On the Defiant's bridge, the crew watched with a mix of awe and pride. They had just disabled the alien fleet's main command ship. Direct hit on their command center, reported Sam. Their primary weapons and engines are offline. Captain Jack Miller nodded, but didn't celebrate yet. What's the rest of their fleet doing? Lisa studied the tactical display. They seem confused, sir. Ships are moving in different directions. Some are still heading toward us, but they're not in formation anymore. In the communications lab, Dave Johnson had joined Emma Reed to study the alien transmissions. After working frantically for several minutes, Dave looked up with excitement. "Captain, I've made a breakthrough," he called over the comm. "I can now decode parts of their language." "What are they saying?" asked Jack. They're panicking, sir," Dave replied, surprise in his voice. "I'm hearing things like impossible and what kind of weapon repeatedly. And something else interesting. They keep using a word that translates roughly as the hive must survive." Emma added, "Captain, based on these communications patterns, I believe the Vex operate with a hive mind mentality. Each ship acts like a part of a larger organism. When we took out their command vessel, we essentially damaged their central nervous system." Jack thought for a moment. "So they're not used to making individual decisions." "Exactly," said Emma. "Their whole society seems built around overwhelming force and central control. They don't adapt well to unexpected threats." A slow smile spread across Jack's face. "Then that's our advantage. Dave, keep monitoring their communications. I want to know everything they're saying to each other." The Vex fleet was regrouping. The remaining ships formed a tight defensive circle, over 200 vessels packed closely together for protection. "They're changing tactics," observed Lisa, "staying close to protect each other." Jack nodded. "They're afraid. They don't understand how one ship could hurt them, so they're bunching up for safety." He turned to his navigation officer. "Prepare for multiple short-range phase jumps. I want to hit them from different directions every 20 seconds. "Sir, the phase drive needs at least a minute to recharge between jumps," said the navigation officer. "Push it to 20 seconds, ordered Jack. "Tom, divert extra power to the phase drive." "Aye, Captain," came Tom's voice from engineering. "But I should warn you, pushing the drive that hard could cause instability." "Noted," said Jack. "We'll risk it." The Defiant shimmered and disappeared, then reappeared at the edge of the Vex formation. 2 more quantum torpedoes launched, striking a large Vex ship before the aliens could react. Then the Defiant vanished again. 20 seconds later, the human ship appeared on the opposite side of the Vex formation. 2 more torpedoes, 2 more damaged alien ships. Then another phase jump. On and on it went. The Defiant appeared, struck, and disappeared before the Vex could target it. Each time, the human ship showed up in an unpredictable location. In the Vex fleet, confusion turned to fear. Their transmissions became more frantic. "Captain," reported Dave, "I'm picking up some interesting chatter. One of their sub-commanders is asking how we can be in multiple places. They think we have more than one ship." Jack smiled. "Perfect. Let's encourage that idea. Emma, can you fake some human communication signals? Make it sound like multiple ships talking to each other." Emma nodded. "I can create false signals that would appear to be coming from different locations. They won't be able to decode the content, but they'll detect what seems like several human ships coordinating." "Do it," ordered Jack. As the Defiant continued its hit-and-run attacks, Emma broadcast fake communication signals from empty points in space. To the Vex sensors, it would appear that 3 or 4 human ships were attacking them from different directions. The Vex reaction was immediate. Their tight formation broke apart as ships turned to face threats that weren't really there. "It's working," said Lisa with amazement. "They're shooting at empty space." Dave's voice came over the comm again, excitement clear in his tone. "Captain, you need to hear this. I've managed to isolate what I believe is their leader's channel." The bridge speakers crackled, and a strange voice filled the room. It spoke an alien language, but Dave's translation program converted the words to English. "Unknown enemy uses technology beyond our understanding. They appear and disappear. They pass through our shields. They may be more advanced than the Hive predicted. Recommend immediate." The transmission cut off suddenly. "What happened?" asked Jack. "Their leader was overruled," explained Dave. Another voice, I think a higher authority, just ordered them to continue the attack. They said the humans must not be allowed to keep such technology. The Hive will absorb their knowledge. Jack considered this information. So their leaders are forcing them to fight, even though the ships are afraid. He thought for a moment. "Lisa, what's the status of the research station?" "The surviving transport escaped during the confusion," Lisa reported. "They're safely away from the battle zone." "Good," said Jack. "Now we can focus fully on the Vex." He pressed a button on his chair. "Tom, how quickly can you reconfigure our communication array to broadcast directly into the Vex fleet's frequency?" "Give me 5 minutes," replied Tom. "You have 3, said Jack. While Tom worked, the Defiant continued its phantom attacks, appearing and disappearing around the increasingly disorganized Vex fleet. More alien ships were damaged, and the rest fired wildly at sensor ghosts. "Communication array reconfigured," announced Tom. "We can broadcast directly to their ships now." "Excellent," said Jack. He turned to Dave. "I want you to send them something from our database. Find the most terrifying human horror movie scenes you can. Show them what humans imagine, what we fear. Let's see how they handle our nightmares." Dave looked surprised but nodded. "Sending now, sir." Throughout the Vex fleet, control screens suddenly filled with images from humanity's darkest imaginations. Monsters, aliens being defeated by humans, scenes of unstoppable human heroes overcoming impossible odds. To the Vex, who had never encountered human culture before, the images were not fiction. They were a glimpse into the mind of their enemy. "Captain," said Emma, "the Vex communications are going crazy. They're panicking even more now." Jack smiled grimly. "Time to deliver our message." He stood in the center of the bridge, straightened his uniform, and prepared to address the aliens who had made the mistake of attacking human territory. The psychological battle was working even better than he had hoped. Captain Jack Miller stood tall as the camera focused on him. His image would be broadcast to every ship in the Vex fleet. "This is Captain Jack Miller of the United Earth ship Defiant," he began, his voice calm but powerful. "Your unprovoked attack on our research station has been noted. Your actions have cost innocent lives. Now you will witness humanity's response." As Jack spoke, Dave translated his words into the Vex language, sending them across the alien communication channels. "I command only one ship," Jack continued. "One ship that has already disabled your command vessel, and several of your warships. Imagine what a full fleet of our vessels could do." In the Vex fleet, Supreme Leader Crag watched the human's face on his screen with growing concern. This was not going according to plan. The human ship should have been easy to destroy, yet it was making his mighty Armada look foolish. "Ignore their psychological tactics," Crag ordered his captains. "Titan formation. Concentrate all fire when the human ship next appears." The remaining Vex ships, still over 200 strong, moved closer together, forming a tight ball of vessels with weapons pointing outward in all directions. On the Defiant, Lisa observed the new formation. "They're bunching up even more tightly now, sir. We won't be able to use the same hit-and-run tactics." Jack nodded. "They think safety comes in numbers." He smiled slightly. Emma, what's the status of the Nova Cannon? Emma looked up from her station. Charged and ready, Captain. But I should warn you, we've never fired it outside of testing. Today is a day for firsts, said Jack. He turned to his weapons officer. Sam, target the center of the Vex formation with the Nova Cannon. Full power. Sam worked the controls. Nova Cannon targeted. Sir, ready to fire on your command. Jack took a deep breath. The Nova Cannon was perhaps the Defiant's most secret and powerful weapon, a device that could create a temporary, localized gravity well. In testing, it had been able to pull small asteroids together with tremendous force. Fire, ordered Jack. From the front of the Defiant, a small dark projectile launched toward the center of the Vex formation. It didn't look impressive, just a black sphere about the size of a basketball. The Vex ships didn't even bother trying to shoot it down. When the sphere reached the middle of the Vex formation, it suddenly expanded into a swirling black hole about 50 meters across. Not large enough to swallow ships whole, but more than large enough to create chaos. The effect was immediate and devastating. The tightly packed Vex ships were suddenly pulled toward the center point. Unable to resist the artificial gravity, dozens of alien vessels collided with each other. Metal screamed against metal as ships crashed together. Nova Cannon functioning at 100% efficiency, reported Emma, watching her readouts with wide eyes. The gravity effect will last approximately 45 seconds. On the main screen, the crew of the Defiant watched as the Vex fleet tore itself apart. Ships crashed into one another, weapons fired accidentally, and engines overloaded as captains desperately tried to escape the gravitational pull. When the black hole finally collapsed, it left behind a tangled mess of damaged alien ships. At least 30 Vex vessels were completely disabled, and many more had suffered serious damage. Nova Cannon recharging, said Sam. It will take at least 20 minutes before we can fire again. Jack nodded. That's fine. We've made our point. In the communications lab, Dave was monitoring the Vex transmissions. Captain, there's a lot of shouting happening on their channels. Some of their ship captains are arguing with their leaders. They're asking to retreat. Emma added, Sir, I've completed the virus we discussed. It's ready to deploy into their communication network. Do it, ordered Jack. Emma pressed a series of commands. Virus deployed. It will spread through their network in about 30 seconds. The virus was another weapon in the Defiant's psychological war. Once inside the Vex communication system, it would begin transmitting false information about Earth's military capabilities, making it appear that humanity had thousands of ships like the Defiant, not just one. It would also continue broadcasting scenes from human entertainment, not just horror movies now, but war films, superhero movies, and historical documentaries showing humanity's determination to survive against all odds. Virus successfully integrated, reported Emma a minute later. All Vex ships are receiving our data stream. On the Vex command ship, Supreme Leader Crag stared in horror at the images flooding his screens. Humans fighting against impossible odds. Humans defeating powerful aliens. Humans surviving the end of their world, only to rebuild stronger than before. And scattered throughout the images were technical specifications, mostly fake, showing the capabilities of Earth's fleet. According to the data, humans had over 1,000 ships with the same technology as the Defiant, and many with even more advanced weapons. This cannot be true, muttered Crag, but he had seen what one human ship could do. If they truly had 1,000 more. Supreme Leader called one of his officers. Many of our captains are requesting permission to withdraw. They say we cannot win against such technology. Nonsense, shouted Crag. We outnumber them. We. His words were cut short as the main screen showed a new message from the human captain. This is your final warning, said Captain Jack Miller, his face stern. You have seen what one Earth ship can do. We have 100 more just like the Defiant within range of your fleet. They will arrive within the hour. This was a complete lie. The nearest Earth ships were days away, but the Vex had no way of knowing that. "The choice is yours," continued Jack. "Leave human space immediately or face complete destruction. You have 5 minutes to decide." The screen went dark. Cragg looked around at his officers. Their confidence was gone, replaced by fear. Cragg himself felt something he had never experienced before: doubt. "Supreme Leader," said his second-in-command quietly, "perhaps we should reconsider this invasion." Cragg wanted to argue, but the evidence was before him. His mighty armada was in disarray. Dozens of ships destroyed or damaged, and the rest filled with crews who were rapidly losing the will to fight. All because of one human ship. What would happen when the rest of their fleet arrived? For the first time in his long military career, Supreme Leader Cragg considered the possibility of retreat. The 5 minutes Captain Jack Miller had given the Vex fleet ticked down slowly. On the bridge of the Defiant, the crew watched the alien ships with tense expressions. No one spoke. The only sound was the soft beeping of equipment. 2 minutes remaining," said Lisa finally, breaking the silence. Jack nodded. The Defiant was running low on weapons. The quantum torpedoes were almost gone, and the Nova cannon would not be ready to fire again for another 15 minutes. If the Vex decided to fight, the human ship would be in serious trouble. "Any movement from their fleet?" asked Jack. "Nothing yet, sir," replied Sam from the weapons station. "They appear to be waiting." In the communications lab, Dave continued monitoring the Vex transmissions. "Captain, there's a lot of argument happening. I'm picking up what sounds like shouting. Their leaders seem to be disagreeing about what to do." On the Vex command ship, Supreme Leader Cragg faced open rebellion. 3 of his sub-commanders had directly challenged his authority, arguing that continuing the fight was suicide. "We must retreat and report what we found," insisted Sub-Commander Vrek. "These humans have technology we've never seen before. The Hive must know what we're facing." "Retreat is weakness," shouted Cragg, slamming his fist on the control panel. "We still outnumber them." "Numbers mean nothing if their weapons can pass through our shields," said another sub-commander. "And if they truly have 100 more ships coming." Cragg knew he was losing control. Fear had infected his fleet like a disease. The humans had somehow turned his mighty armada, conquerors of 12 different species, into a frightened, disorganized mess. 1 minute remaining," announced Lisa on the Defiance bridge. Jack took a deep breath. "Prepare the last of our quantum torpedoes. If they don't retreat, we'll target their remaining command ships." "Torpedoes ready, sir," responded Sam. "Captain," Dave's excited voice came over the comm. "Something's happening. I'm picking up new orders being transmitted throughout their fleet." The crew watched the main screen as the Vex ships began to move. Slowly at first, then with increasing speed, the alien vessels started to turn away from the Defiant. "They're changing course," said Lisa, surprise in her voice. "They appear to be leaving." "Confirm," ordered Jack, hardly believing it himself. Lisa checked her readings. "Confirmed, sir. The entire Vex fleet is moving away from human space. Their engines are at full power." A cheer erupted on the bridge. Officers hugged each other, their faces showing relief and joy. They had done the impossible. One ship forcing an entire alien armada to retreat. Jack allowed himself a small smile, but he wasn't finished yet. "Dave, do we still have access to their communication system?" "Yes, sir," replied Dave. "The virus is still active. We can broadcast to their entire fleet." "Good," said Jack. "I want to send them one final message. Something they'll remember. Something they'll tell others." Jack straightened his uniform and stood tall as the camera focused on him once more. His image would be the last thing the Vex saw as they fled human space. "This is Captain Jack Miller of the Earth ship Defiant," he began, his voice now cold and dangerous. "Remember this day. Remember what one human ship did to your fleet. Spread the word to others who might think of attacking us." Jack paused, then delivered his final message. "We are humanity. This was one ship, We have 1,000 more waiting. Run for your lives." The message was broadcast to every Vex ship as they fled. Along with it, Dave sent one final package of images, scenes from human history showing great victories against overwhelming odds, heroes standing alone against armies, and the unbreakable human spirit that had carried Earth through its darkest times. On the Vex command ship, Supreme Leader Crag had been relieved of command. Sub-Commander Vrek now controlled the fleet, and his first order had been immediate retreat. As he watched the human captain's final message, Vrek felt a chill run through his body. "Send word to the Hive," he ordered. "Mark human space as extremely dangerous. No ships are to enter their territory without special permission from the High Council." His officers nodded quickly, eager to put as much distance as possible between themselves and the terrifying humans. 3 weeks later, the Defiant docked at Earth's main space station. A hero's welcome awaited them. The story of how one ship had turned back an alien armada had spread throughout human territory. As the crew disembarked, they were greeted by cheering crowds and high-ranking officials. Earth's president herself waited to shake Jack's hand. "Captain Miller," she said warmly, "humanity owes you and your crew a debt we can never repay." Jack smiled. "We were just doing our job, Madam President." "Your job saved countless lives," she replied. "And not just today. Intelligence suggests the Vex are spreading warnings about humans throughout their part of the galaxy. It may be a very long time before anyone else tries to attack us." Later, in a private meeting room, Jack sat with the president and the military's highest commanders. They discussed what had happened and what it meant for Earth's future. "The truth is," Jack admitted, "we were lucky. If the Vex hadn't retreated when they did, we would have been in serious trouble. Most of our special weapons were depleted." The fleet admiral nodded. "Which is why we're accelerating production of ships with the same technology as the Defiant. Soon, we'll have the fleet you claimed we already had." "And what about the Vex?" asked Jack. "Will they come back?" The intelligence director smiled. "Our long-range monitoring suggests they're too busy warning everyone else about us. According to our translators, they're telling quite a story about humans who can appear and disappear at will, who can turn gravity itself into a weapon, and who enjoy watching the destruction of their enemies." The president laughed. "Sometimes, Captain Miller, the best defense isn't a powerful weapon. It's a powerful reputation." Jack nodded in agreement. One ship had created that reputation. One ship had sent an entire alien armada running for their lives. The Defiant had lived up to its name. Far across the galaxy, in the Vex home system, the High Council watched recordings from the failed invasion. They saw their mighty ships disabled by weapons that shouldn't exist. They saw their fleet in disarray, running from a single enemy vessel. "Perhaps," said the oldest council member slowly, "we should find easier targets than these. Humans." The others quickly agreed. Some enemies weren't worth the fight, especially when they could make one ship feel like 1,000.